Sanctions have to be used very judiciously, and you can win. We have things much more powerful, actually, than sanctions. We have trade, but we cannot lose our dollar standard.
So, former President of the US, President Donald Trump, vowed to remove the sanctions against Russia and Vladimir Putin. But for what reasons? What could be the motivation behind all this? What is motivating Donald Trump to remove the sanctions which the Joe Biden administration they had imposed on Russia after all these years? What could be the deal that Donald Trump had with the president of Russia in order for him to remove these sanctions? Why Donald Trump want to remove these sanctions right now? And if you have to remove these sanctions, he will do this in exchange of what? Well, that's what we're going to talk with you in this video. But before we get to comment much about this, I'm first inviting you to have listened to what Donald Trump had said in his words as he was busy addressing the Economic Club of New York, where he was asked these questions by the businessmen who were seated over there. And this is what Donald Trump had to say.
I would like to ask about the United States economic sanctions programs. These programs have been used, as you well know, to advance our national security interests, our foreign policy objectives, but they also have economic implications. And the most recent was the program against Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine, where for once we got the support of all our allies. So my specific question is, would you strengthen or modify any of these economic sanctions programs, particularly Russia, including the pipeline you mentioned?
Well, it's a great question. The problem with what we have with sanctions, and I was a user of sanctions, but I'd put them on and take them off as quickly as possible, because ultimately it kills your dollar and it kills everything the dollar represents, and we have to continue to have that be the world currency. I think it's important. I think it would be losing a war if we lost the dollar as the world currency. I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. That would make us a third world country, and we can't let it happen. So I use sanctions very powerfully against countries that deserve it, and then I take them off. Because look, you're losing Iran, you're losing Russia. China is out there trying to get their currency to be the dominant currency, as you know better than anybody. All of these things are happening. You're losing so many countries because there's so much conflict with all of these countries that you're going to lose that, and we can't lose that. So I want to use sanctions as little as possible. One of the things that we have with tariffs is that I'll say to them, you don't honor the dollar as your world currency. Is that right? You're not going to do it? No, we're not. I said, that's okay. I'm going to put tariffs all over your product. And they're going to say, sir, we'd love to honor the dollar as the world currency. You know, tariffs, in addition to monetary and the money that we'll take in, which will be bigger than you've ever seen in this country before, gives you tremendous political power for something like that. As an example, I stopped wars with the threat of tariffs. I stopped wars with two countries that mattered a lot. A lot of people would have been killed. And I threatened tariffs coming into the United States if they don't make peace. And we made a lot of, we didn't have conflicts like you have right now. We had very intelligent people. But the biggest threat you have is you lose that currency, and we have lost something that you'll never get back. And we can keep it if we're smart, but they use it too much, and then they just forget about it. And these countries like Russia, it's going out now and doing its own thing, and you know, they're going out bragging about how they don't need us anymore, et cetera, et cetera. The sad part about Russia is that Ukraine would have never happened if I was president, so we wouldn't really have to be talking about sanctions. But it did happen. And one of the things I'm going to do, a little bit relevant to your question, is if we win, I believe I can settle that war while I'm president-elect. Before I ever get into office, I can get that war settled and get that war stopped, because it's a horrible, horrible war. And far more people are killed in Ukraine, far more people than you're realizing. They'll knock down this massive building, amazing, the size of these buildings, they'll knock it down, they'll say nobody was injured. No, a lot of people were killed. The real numbers are far greater than what people are looking at. So I think it's a very important thing. Sanctions have to be used very judiciously. And
wait a second, did you hear that? Did you hear what Donald Trump just mentioned there? Isn't it this is the same thing we always tell you about the demonetization of the US dollar? Donald Trump sounds very scared and very worried. When Joe Biden administrations, they're busy imposing their sanctions on Russia, hoping that things will go more easy for them. And seeing on other side, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, they're becoming even more stronger. They're becoming even more independent than ever. Donald Trump have to come and think and say, okay, wait a second. Don't you think that when you guys were focusing on how to win war in Ukraine, well, it seemed like actually we are the one who are being defeated, and we can't afford to let go of the US dollar as the world currency.
If we lost the dollar as the world currency, I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. That would make us a third world country, and we can't let it happen.
If we lose the US dollar as the world's currency, then we should consider ourselves as people who have just lost war, because losing the US dollar as the world's trade currency, it is more than losing war in Ukraine. Isn't it this is the same things we always tell you here? When we keep on saying that the war that we are seeing in Ukraine, it has nothing to do with Ukraine and Russia, but this is US with Nato trying to fight Russia, and they're using Ukraine as their battlefield. Listen to the man who's supposed to be number one of the US citizen, yet is revealing this kind of revelations. Do you know what that means? That simply means to say that the man is now fed up. Have a listen as he continue explaining what is his visions and how he's planning to remove these sanctions on Russia.
So I use sanctions very powerfully against countries that deserve it, and then I take them off. Because look, you're losing Iran, you're losing Russia. China is out there trying to get their currency to be the dominant currency, as you know better than anybody. All of these things are happening. You're losing so many countries because there's so much conflict with all of these countries that you're going to lose that, and we can't lose that. So I want to use sanctions as little as possible.
When you listen very well to what Donald Trump is trying to say here, he's trying to say that conflict that the USA, they've been creating around the world, especially in the Middle East, it is not benefiting them as the way they were expecting. It is not something that's going to help them, because this kind of conflicts, the kind of drama that the USA are imposing or trying to create in all these areas, well, it is kind of like opening the eyes of many countries out there. Many people, they now get to understand the mafias of the US on how they play their games. And this make these countries with their leaders, including even their people, to start losing even more trust in the US foreign policy. And that's not good for them, because the more these countries start losing trust in the US, it will make them to not want to have anything to do with their currency, to not want to have anything to do with their US dollar. And these countries, they'll start finding another new alternative that can help them to start trading among themselves without having the US dollar. And that's how you had Donald Trump giving the example, such as the one of Iran fighting with them over there, Russia on the other side, and in meantime, China is busy making sure that their currency become the world's #1 trading currency. And that's not something that the USA under Donald Trump want things to look like.
One of the things that we have with tariffs is that I'll say to them, you don't honor the dollar as your world currency. Is that right? You're not going to do it? No, we're not. I said, that's okay. I'm going to put tariffs all over your product. And they're going to say, sir, we'd love to honor the dollar as the world currency. You know, tariffs, in addition to monetary and the money that we'll take in, which will be bigger than you've ever seen in this country before, gives you tremendous political power for something like that. As an example, I stopped wars with the threat of tariffs. I stopped wars with two countries that mattered a lot. A lot of people would have been killed. And I threatened tariffs coming into the United States if they don't make peace. And we made a lot of, we didn't have conflicts like you have right now. We had very intelligent people. But the biggest threat you have is you lose that currency, and we have lost something that you'll never get back. And we can keep it if we're smart, but they use it too much, and then they just forget about it. And these countries like Russia, it's going out now and doing its own thing, and they're going out bragging about how they don't need us anymore, et cetera, et cetera.
Donald Trump again just revealed one of his strategies on how he used to handle people such as a terrorist, how he managed to stop the war in different countries around the world. And he exposed all these secrets so that at least you can see the difference between the leadership of Donald Trump to the one of Joe Biden. Whether we like it or not, whether we like him or not, Donald Trump, at least we know when he used to be the president of the US, the world was not having this kind of conflict that we are seeing today. So in other words, the administration of Joe Biden, it is the one that allowed these things to come. So that's one, we can give him a benefit of doubt, even though we don't agree with him in everything that he says. But guys, he said something which is very important that I want to bring to your attention. For example, we all know that the war against the terrorists is not something which is easy for the USA, especially them who've been provoking people around the world. And these terrorists, they have come forward and trying to make sure that they punish them for all the crimes or all the bad things they have done to their people. So since then, the US, they are fighting, but they are not managing to win these groups of terrorists. So Donald Trump, he had to come up with a strategy that no, you guys, if we block our roads, we stop you from the borders, you still be able to come in the country and cause serious disasters among our people. But there is way we can do to stop this kind of things. He managed at least to threaten them that no, as you are coming in the USA, don't come to create trouble, don't come to commit crime, but come here to negotiate. And that was the easy way that made him at least to have a better understanding with these terrorists. And there were not too much of disasters that we are seeing right now in the US borders. So that was something which was very important. Donald Trump have to disclose there for the first time since he left the office as the president of the United States of America. But another point, we had Donald Trump who's expressing his emotions, saying that no, look, we have lost that dignity. We have lost that respect. People are no longer seeing us the same. People are no longer respecting us because we are big mafias. We are big bullies. We are what. But under my leadership, we were doing it in a professional way that people could not be able to just accuse us directly. But today, everyone now, they have know how we operate and how we do things around. So that is something that Donald Trump himself, as a former president of the United States of America, did not understand, because he had to give an example of Russia, saying that look, Russia with Vladimir Putin, they're now going around bragging, telling people that no, we don't need the USA anymore. And that is something that hurt the USA. Guys, what is hurting them the most is for the fact that people who are supposed to be respecting them, people who are supposed to be living their lives, they are no longer believing them, they are no longer trusting them because they know the kind of games that these people usually play. So that's what is hating them right now. And the move which Russia have made and the way that Russia managed to survive after all this time is what's driving them insane. They don't understand how could we have just lost this kind of dignity that we used to have.
The sad part about Russia is that Ukraine would have never happened if I was president, so we wouldn't really have to be talking about sanctions. But it did happen. And one of the things I'm going to do, a little bit relevant to your question, is if we win, I believe I can settle that war while I'm president-elect. Before I ever get into office, I can get that war settled and get that war stopped, because it's a horrible, horrible war. And far more people are killed in Ukraine, far more people than you're realizing. They'll knock down this massive building, amazing, the size of these buildings, they'll knock it down, they'll say nobody was injured. No, a lot of people were killed. The real numbers are far greater than what people are looking at. So I think it's a very important thing. Sanctions have to be used very judiciously, and you can win. We have things much more powerful, actually, than sanctions. We have trade, but we cannot lose our dollar standard. Very important.
When you listen again to Trump here, you will understand that it does not sit okay with him, knowing very well that there is a war in Ukraine. And that strategy, according to him, he even said that that is a horrible things because there are many people who are dying over there. And him saying this as a politician, guys, trust me, I'll tell you that it is because he's already calculate, he's already have that giraffe view to know already that someone such as Russia under Vladimir Putin leadership, we are not going to defeat them anytime soon. And I'm afraid to say that if they are partners, they have to start also getting involved in this conflict, and they have to escalate it to another level where things will end up becoming even more ugly. Because look at right now, Russia does not have any country around the world that support them. Whether it is with military troops, whether it is with military weapons or equipment, Russia, they are fighting on their own without the support of any countries around the world. But on the other side, Ukraine, it has all the support of NATO countries. They put billions and billions of US dollar in order for them to sponsor them. They give them all the equipment that they need. Recently, you guys, we even saw how now Ukraine, for the first time in their history, they managed to step inside Russia borders. Why? Because they are having the support of all these countries who are coming forward to say that, okay, we have to fight Russia and defeat Russia, because they know very well that if they can't defeat Russia, there will be a big defeat, not only against Russia, against Ukraine, but it will be a defeat which will concern all of them as NATO countries. That is why you saw the former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, he had to come and say that no, we have to do everything by all means to defeat Vladimir Putin. Otherwise, it will be one man defeating the entire Europe and the USA. You see, so that is the kind of the fear these people they are having. But this war, was it something that's supposed to be avoided? Of course, yes. The answer to that is yes, because you heard Donald Trump saying again that if you were still a president, this war was not going to exist. But once he become again the president, he's going to stop this war before even he get to step inside the office. So the moment they announce him as the elected president, he's going to make calls, and all these people, they'll stop the war. Why is he saying that? Well, because he knows very well that at the end of the day, this war, it is kind of like exposing them. This war, it was kind of like putting American foreign policy out there to everyone, so that they can understand that these are not good people that you can deal with. These are not trustworthy people. These are kind of people who will say one thing today and tomorrow they do something else. These are kind of people, they'll come and tell you about democracy, they'll come and preach you about the human rights and so on, but yet they don't respect none of it. That's the reason why they'll rather sit quiet and look innocent people being eliminated and taken life, while them they are there busy protecting their own benefit with their own interest. That is the kind of thing this former president of the US, Donald Trump, want to pass there as a message. So you can tell that the sanctions which Joe Biden had announced, all excited, hoping that these sanctions will put Russia to the knees. Well, these sanctions, it seems like it is having a serious impact on the American economy. I'm not the one who's saying this. Not even Donald Trump who have to come and say this. But this, it is a question which came from one of the participants in that economic economic club of the New York. One of the members who were there, who have to come and bring this up because they know that they are losing a lot. Let's even forget about them. Let's go to Europe. They put a lot of sanctions on Russia and everything. They even close Russians. Guys are saying that no, you won't supply again. They won't supply again to the European countries. Russia accepted. And then they choose to start supplying their gas to other nations in Asia and middle countries. But what happened to the Europeans who had rejected this gas? They start suffering. They start suffering because the price of the gas end up increasing. Now they were obliged to start go ahead and buy the same gas from Russia through other countries, so that they can be able to supply themselves to all their needs. You see the kind of things they have done. They close all Russian assets, thinking that no, Russia will drop down. They even remove the trades against Russia, hoping that Russia will gonna be down. But that even end up making Russia become even more stronger, because now the currency of Russia, it had its own value. If you are having $100 in Russia right now, it's like a mine for peanuts, which no one will consider it. No one even will want to sell you something in exchange of that money, because they know it had lost that value. And that is something which is going down. It's escalating. Many nations that are seeing that already, and they're trying to run away from the US dollar. They're trying to run away from these so-called tools that the US dollar usually use in order for them to manipulate and bully other nations around the world. That is the fear that Donald Trump does not want. That's why you guys saw him talking with a very open heart, telling everyone that no, that is the danger, that they're not going to be able to survive, because losing the US dollar as the world's biggest number one currency is like losing the war. It is even more than us losing the war against Russia and Ukraine. That is a sign of showing that yes, Russia with Vladimir Putin, they're winning. If you see someone such as Donald Trump revealing this kind of secret, it's a sign of showing that no, they are doing much better than the way these people wanted to make them look out there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. It was very important we take time to have this conversation with you, because as we are seeing the former president of the USA get to open up this way, so for us, we believe that was very important. We come in here and sit with you and have this conversation. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video until now. We really appreciate your time. Do us a favor before you leave: like this video in your numbers, give us your thumbs up. We'll really do appreciate. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. We'll really also do appreciate. But most of all, feel free to drop us your comment in the comment section. We'll have a look on it so that we can all be in the same page. That will be all for now. Continue to be yourself. Be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. Also again very soon. Ciao, ciao.
ya cheke, ya ndole, ya futu, ya fufu, ya loco, oh, que nous pouvons manger. Ya du chef, ya yassa, ya mafé et fakoy, ya coco, oh, que nous pouvons manger. Koni iba sigile kabala magala, abe makoro mango.
Africa, 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 Africa,
Koro jara bungu la sobo mabele na, abe makoro mango.